experts. I'm going to read a bit of a thought process that I am putting through. And just before I start, I just want to make sure everyone is muted. There we go. Okay. So every person you meet will add a little piece to you and who you are. How long you stick around, what you decide to pick up is who you become. Nothing happens by chance. It happens by choice. Beliefs lead to actions, actions lead to behaviors, and behaviors lead to who you become. So I think this is a really important way to kind of kick off our first tap-in cohort conversation with our experts about disruption and challenging the status quo, because every expert that has come on here has said, yes, I do believe in this. I believe in the fundamental baseline that we'll be learning in the journey within tap-in. And then they are experts that you have a choice to utilize once you have everything put together, and that you are in a fantastic position to be able to utilize their resources to the maximum to save you time, to save you money, and truly help you with this independent business that you have. Because everybody wants to have or be an independent business owner, but that really is the hardest hill to ever climb. It truly is. So with that, I'm going to start with Shaun and Derek, and we're going to start with the questions. Are you guys ready?
Yeah, we are. No, I am. I don't know. Derek, are you?
Totally. On such a bright fall day, it's hard not to be.
It's beautiful. It is
Yeah.
so beautiful. We are just blessed right now. We're completely blessed. Okay, here we go. So the first question, and I'm going to start with Derek to answer this one. Okay. Ooh, I think we have something going on. There we go. The first question, and this comes with disruption. This comes from your viewpoint. So Derek, as Doc Copy, as we have now officially nicknamed you, since you work with those who give advice for a living, from your expertise, what do you see as the perpetuated pattern that advisors are stuck in, those who give advice that keep them stuck in the status quo?
Well, I'm always inclined to kind of approach a question like this from a number of different vantage points. And so philosophically, I think a lot of that has to do with this notion, but also the reality of running a business, of having to make decisions, right? Often split-second decisions that really kind of require you to be much more thoughtful than the split second allows. And so I think one of the things that we often face is that we don't wind up taking our own advice. Happens all the time. We're experts at providing advice to people, objective advice. We get paid to be able to take that step backward that allows us to see that bigger picture that then leads to our own definition of success. And so one of the things, and I think we'll touch upon this in our other questions and answers as well, but one of the things that's really important to remember is to listen to yourself and to put your own advice into practice. Now, that's often going to wind up happening in adjacent ways. You're not always going to be bringing, say, financial advice to bear, but the underlying principles are going to be the same. And if you can draw on your own expertise, you're 2 or 3 steps ahead. So
I think that's awesome. And you said something really interesting that sticks in my head of it's trusting your gut and that's your intuition. So you get to a point where it's not just a flippant trust your gut. It's you've studied this, you've been there before, you know the answers. So trust yourself, right? Trust that piece. Yeah.
Well, and the other thing too, and I suspect this is going to tee Shaun up. The other part of this too is not only follow your own advice, but you really have to give yourself the time to reflect so that you can hear your gut, right? And not just the sort of gurglings and burblings that occur throughout the day, but those gut checks that you know are there. And maybe it is a sense of anxiety you're feeling that you can't quite pinpoint. It's imperative, just as you wind up advising your own clients to do, give yourself the opportunity to do that big work, because that is at the root of all of the success that you're going to be able to help other people achieve.
Yeah. And I'm gonna finish off the second part actually with you, Derek, before I go on to Shaun. I want you to talk about how do you personally challenge it and disrupt these patterns within your business, because you're as human as everyone else here and you have challenges, Derek. So I just want to ask these challenges yourselves, how do you work on those within your business for yourself?
Well, again, there are pragmatic examples, right? Just in terms of moving the business forward.
Right.
I try very hard to do exactly as I've just suggested.
Yeah.
I'm always counseling clients to simply take the next step. That's not to throw long-term strategy out the window. We all know that is not a recipe for long-term success.
Yeah.
But I find it's very important. And I know, Shaun, you've been doing a lot of work in terms of promoting this. Taking the next step is the next step in that 1,000-mile journey, right? You're not going to suddenly leap to the end. I think it's imperative not to compare yourself to somebody who's just completed the journey if you're just beginning it, but just taking the next step, doing the next thing that is then going to lead to the next thing that will then lead to the next thing. Once you get in the habit of taking that next step, however imperfect it may be, you're building toward, again, that long-term strategy that we've put in place.
Wonderful, wonderful. The end of one goal is always the beginning of the next. That's the long-term strategy, truly, right? Okay, Mr. Automate, doer of cool things, of automation,
That's right.
whatever nickname we decided to give you, which I can't remember right now, and I've totally destroyed it. But
Well,
same
that's okay.
question, it's okay. Okay, same question for you. What specific patterns within advice-based industry do you believe perpetuate the status quo that you say from the automation standpoint?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I've had the privilege of working with some amazing people in the financial space and the advice space over, 20 years and in different capacities. The last decade has been in automation, which mainly is looking at the systems that they have in place. So one of the first things that I've looked at and we start to talk about is like what do you need or what do you want to have happen? And when somebody looks at the industry and they say, well, I want to do what this person's doing, because that's what the majority of the people are doing. I think that's the thing is we're trying to look at cloning ourselves just like everyone else because they think this person's having success. I just want to be like them. But the problem is you just end up being like them and you dilute that industry of that person where people see success in being unique. So, everyone that's in this group is challenging the status quo because we want to break outside that box.
Mhm.
So, whatever your industry, what you're seeing the most happening out there, right? That's what you don't want to do, because that's what most of the your audience is seeing. It's what they believe is what is common, right? So you're not going to really stand out. So the idea of falling victim to basing your success on the 5-10% of what you see online and saying that's 100% of the success, that happens in every industry, not just advice. That's in mine as well. I fall victim to seeing, people in the US that are like, hey, we've grown our agency like super big and we've got all this success, but do they really? And what are they doing? Oh, you need this 5-step plan, this 3-step plan. No, you don't need that plan. What do you need to be authentically you? Right? So is it, I want to talk to every one of my clients. Perfect. Right? I'm not going to sit here and say you need to automate all this and step away from that because that's not what you need. You need what you need to truly feel who you are, right? So when I approach this, and that's where I came into business with automation is I didn't want to sell a system. I didn't want to come in and say, here's your webinar funnels, here's your this, here's your that, fit in this box, right? I purposely, anything that I do is like, we are a blank slate right now. Tell me without any preconceived understanding of limitations of technology and systems, what is your Disney World vision, right? What is this thing that would make you feel so good about the business and the person you are, the advice you're giving? What does that look like to you? What does that feel like to you? And what does it look and feel like to your client? Now we can start to build this up, right? We're not walking into a pre-made building that you now have to like start to decorate because it doesn't make sense, right? You need to know what it is right now. So, I mean, I think that's the biggest thing I see is when somebody comes and say, I need this system, I need this technology. And when you ask why, it's like, because that's what that's what other people are doing. And I think I need that,
Yep.
right? When you say, I think I need that. You probably don't,
Yep.
right? When I know this is what I need, then you do.
And it's a perception of success too, right? So you can look as successful as you want to look online, truly can, right? So even you're comparing yourself to successful Jane or Joe or whoever it may be, are
Mhm.
they truly even really successful too? So there's a really interesting dynamic of what are you looking at? So the safest bet really is to be you, right? That be you, be bold, which is kind of our caption within the community well that everyone will learn about later. It is such a challenge. And even to speak to this point too, within this tap in group, I can't tell. Well, Shaun, Derek, you know how many times I've been told that this is the most outrageous, stupid idea ever, and it's never going to work. And that part to boldly stand and say, but you can't see what's in my head. You don't understand the plays and the behind the scene and what's happening in the quietness. So to be able to put all this together and align all the pieces together of, okay, there's a disruption that needs to happen and I need to fight for something.
Mhm.
So what does that look like? And that number one thing that you need to fight for is yourself.
Mhm.
That's who you need to fight for. No one else is going to do it for you. And then once you do that whole part of find the eye, find the calm, fight for yourself, you can now see of what are the perceptions that I see out there? What are the aversions that I need to look at that I see challenges and clients challenge time after time? How do I stand out? How do I be bold? How do I be myself and define my own success? And that's true independence. It's so difficult, but it's true independence. And
Mhm.
that same question, Shaun, just for yourself on a bit of a piece of there is so much, especially in your space of automation and marketing, and we kind of gobble up all the words and the terms. It just becomes very general, right?
Mhm.
How do you truly stay away from that perpetuated status quo of I'm the guy that does automation, systems, tools, funnels, stuff?
Well, for one, it's freaking hard to stay away from that.
Yeah.
But I wanted to add something in there from the previous point. I think if you're challenging the status quo, there will be a point in your journey where you are going to truly feel like, I don't know where I fit in this
Yeah.
industry at this moment, right? And I know Barb and we've worked together, and she's on the call. There's points in that journey where you have that internal thing is like, I don't know where I fit. I'm somewhere in between, or I'm charting a new course. And that is a good thing,
Yeah.
because you are knowing you're challenging it because you're not fitting into that. So I guess where have fell victim to this and trying to do different is again, looking at what's the mass market, what's the mass industry showing me online, um, and then I'm judging where I should be with that, right? So it's like, oh, I should be creating a course on automation. I should be doing this, right? I should be, going out and getting booths at industry trade shows and things like that. But that's not who I am, and I know that, right? So it's a struggle of staying on the track to where I want to go, and listening to the value that my clients feel they have with me.
Mhm.
So the fact that I am personally getting to know them, I'm always available to have a conversation. I never wanted to build a business where it was just numbers and I never knew who all the clients were and I didn't know anything about them. That was never something that I wanted to be. But there are people in this, a lot of people in this industry that want to have, 30, 40, 50 team members and grow these huge multi-million dollar agencies. But I know that's not who I am,
That
right?
just made my left eye twitch.
Well, and also too, I just wanted to follow this up because I really do think that this is at the heart of the conversation that we're having, that all of us are having, not just the three of us. Getting to that point where you no longer quite know how to package your services or
Mm.
even really define or talk about the direction you're moving in is absolutely terrifying because we operate in an economy, we operate in a field, in an industry in which that type of clarity is absolutely required. And yet here we are talking about pushing ourselves and one another toward that place of being able to answer that question. Hey, what do you do? What is this? What is that with? I'm not entirely sure.
Mhm.
And knowing how frightening that is, isn't it absolutely extraordinary to know you've got a support system in place, a bunch of people who are gathered around you who are like, ooh, that's cool. Let's explore that.
Right.
Right. To your point, Shaun, that's the thing we want to pursue, not the thing everyone else is doing right now, right? Not the thing that everyone is encouraging you to do right now, but the thing that none of them are doing themselves, staking a position of their own, right? Really leaning into that uniqueness. And I got to tell you, as somebody who walks that ledge professionally and has throughout the course of his career, there is absolutely nothing like knowing you've got people trailing alongside you who are able to encourage you to take that next step and that next step.
You have to have that group, right? You have to have the cohort, you have to have the support system, you have to have the community. And that's actually the name behind the community that'll be introduced later on. And it really is just a community of experts. And Shaun, you said something too about, and it came right to mind of, well, what's being shown is what's being sold. So we take this advice and this spin on marketing. Derek, you talk about hooks, you talk about those pieces a lot, right? So it draws you in, but truly you need to remember what is being shown is what is being sold. So if someone says this is the best system A, B, C, D, E, you have to be able to, again, be in that confident mindset and understand of, okay, do I need this? Is this the right tool for the clients I want to serve? Does this serve my business, or is this just another gadget, a pacifier to help me make me think like I'm doing something, right? Or that I'm moving towards a goal. It is really hard. That moment made me laugh when you guys said that part of, I don't know who I am and how to name myself anymore. That's that's a terrifying place to be, but it's also an incredible place to be. And that's when you don't stop. So I think about that meme of, and we've all seen it with a little cartoon character with a pickaxe and he's chipping away and he's chipping away and he's chipping away. And he's about to stop and there's the pot of gold or the diamonds or whatever is there. There's a meme missing. Like there's one more tile or slide of that cartoon that's missing. And it's this community of friends or the community well coming along with their pickaxes and helping you get past that point. That's that last part that we're all missing to how do we really get to that place where we want to be, to not be stuck and perpetuated in that status quo, right? It's good. Awesome, guys. And please, if anybody has any comments or questions, type them in. Go right ahead. Okay, Derek, you ready? How do you balance the desire for innovation and disruption with the need to maintain consistency and reliability in your affiliate expertise partnership within the Tap In group?
Well, this is one of those great examples of all of the overlap, right? I think we've really touched on this already.
Yeah.
You have to know who you are.
Yeah.
You have to explore your capacity. Shaun, I think you've said it well, and Kim, you've underscored this. You have to really be confident in terms of moving forward. And the only way you're going to become confident is if you examine and ask that question of yourself, where do I want to get to? It's the same, again, it's the same question you're asking your own clients, right? That you're inviting them always to reflect in these ways. But that's crucial because your path is going to be different. And that's what people are going to gravitate toward, is that difference you're able to bring to this sameness that we're surrounded by. It requires a it requires not just consistency in terms of posting, in terms of creating marketing collateral, in terms of building your business. It also involves consistency in terms of that self-reflection, taking that inward journey to really define for yourself where you're most comfortable, where you're most comfortable stretching beyond your level of comfort. That's the place that we want to strive for routinely. And I think that it shows. It shows in someone's content. It shows in someone's presentations. It shows in those discovery calls you have. It shows in their social media profiles. How well do they know themselves? And what is it exactly that I'm going to get in working with them? And I suspect, Shaun, you're going to be able to fill in the gaps.
Absolutely.
Okay, do you need me to repeat it or are you okay?
I have the questions in front of me. So
Oh, look at you. See,
homework
you got
for
some smart lady that prepares things for people. I don't know who she is.
so yeah, so I mean, my desire for innovation and disruption is huge. I mean, I love to figure out new ways to do things, and that's when working on systems, whether they are standard foundational stuff that everybody's doing in a business. I'm always looking at it being like, well, how can we do this differently? How can we innovate on this? How can we make it more efficient? And the reason that Tap In and the community well idea appealed to me so well is because for 20 years working with clients, I've had to bring what I do to them, but there was always these outlying areas that I wasn't strong in, right? What the copy side, like the more brand identity side. Systems, got it, nailed, no problem. But when it comes to the other side, so to have the ability to know there's a team here that is got all aligned with the best interest of where you want to go. And, when you're working on something, you truly know that the person that's doing copy is being innovative in their areas and can be like, okay, I'm going to bring this to the table because the client wants that, and kind of can hand that torch over. And now I can just, for lack of a better word, I can be in the sandbox and I can play and we can have this fun thing together, and we can come back and like, well, what if we try this? Right. So it's really a group of people that have the best interest in mind, that are seeing outside of the scope of a single company. Right. So you can come and hire an agency and you're going to get everybody who is in some regard drinking the same Kool-Aid and have a slanted view of what the owner has for what they want to bring to their clients, but the ability to have different people in different areas, but also have that community feel that, you know, when we lift one person up, we lift everybody up, right? So we're going to learn off of everything that's happening. And that was the key with that, is it allows me to now be more innovative in my area because I don't have to worry, you know, how are they doing the copy stuff? How are they coming in? And Kim, when we first started talking about this, you had said, like, what's the thing that you wish you had when working with somebody? I'm like, for them to know who they were,
Mhm.
right? I'm like, a lot of people don't know, and there are times I don't know who I am, and that's okay. It's a journey we're on, but to know that when they get to that phase to put systems in place, they know this is who I am, this is how I want to be viewed, and this is what I want to deliver to my clients. That is a huge step forward. Be like, all right, let's roll up our sleeves and let's get building this, right? That's phenomenal. And that was the part that allowed me to really see the value in this.
That's awesome. There's so many points I can pull off of what the both of you said.
Mhm.
And the one part is advice-based business has been mismarketed to and misunderstood. So we treat it just like it is a pair of earrings we're selling or whatever it may be. Like, you're selling advice. And there's always this talk back and forth of, okay, is it a commodity? Is it not? So depending on what definition you look at, and Derek, you love your words, definitely. So what part of that definition of the word of commodity you're looking at? And it's that part of, in advice-based business, you can't run, go, 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 go. The most exhausting thing in the whole entire world is giving advice for a living. So setting up your calendar, even just in that way of saying, you need to stack at least 20 appointments per week, or you're not doing the right thing. Actually, that's very incorrect. Because even if you have a dog and you take your dog to a trainer and the dog won't calm down and you're trying to get them to relax, your trainer's going to say, take them for a walk. Don't let them run like you've been. Let them sniff. Let them use their brain, because that will tire them out more than running. Now, I don't mean to compare us to a dog, but I just did. But it's that same thing. When you're using your brain, that fatigues our body more so than consistent, mindless, brainless activity. So working the cook line in a restaurant, you can do that for a 12-hour shift. I used to, right? Selling and talking for 12 hours, my gosh, shoot me. You just can't. You absolutely can't think anymore. And that's one of our mistakes of, we have our greatest and best intentions to be present, but we can't because we're so exhausted. And I absolutely love that point. And that other part of coming together in this, what you've all talked about, this innovation of bringing Tap In together and the community well, this community of experts working together. It was really interesting talking to all these experts of, okay, this isn't a gig you get paid for. We are doing this 100% from the goodness of our heart. So there is the program, the Tap In program itself, but then there's this bringing this community of experts to help you understand of, I'm going down this path for a reason. And the biggest thing that stops everyone is momentum. So that part that we saw missing in the device-based industry is, okay, I have all these plans now, momentums. How do I go find an automation guy? How do I go find my copy person? How do I find my podcasting person? How do I find my event planner? How do I find my LinkedIn person? With every piece that you have to source out, you are now disrupting your momentum. Right. So there's so many behavioral pieces to put it all together. And I love it. So that part of people questioning of saying, this is so big. And I'm going, well, it has to be a year long. It has to be a repeatable process, the same thing year after year. And it has to combine accountability, mindset, strategy, organization. It just has to. And that's how we change this and disrupt it. I love this, guys. I really do.
And
Hey, you ready?
one thing on that point about
Yeah.
the momentum. I mean, I'm sure that everybody in this room has had this experience where, you work with somebody, they get to know you, and now it's time for you to grow and go work with a different person in a different area, and you get referred out to them,
Yeah.
right? So you make contact, and they're like, all right, let's go through a get to know you on board, and you got to tell them the exact same thing you just spent time telling and getting to know that previous person, and it's exhausting
Yep.
to do that. Whereas with this, with everybody being connected, you don't have to go through that process, right? Because it's like, Kim, let's talk about John. I'm now going to work with John, whoever John is. It's like, let's figure out all that, and that gets transferred internally, right?
Yep.
And it saves you can just keep going, right? And you're kind of you're running by the time you're meeting for the first time.
Well, and not only that, but you also know that at any point, again, whether it's something you just need a second set of eyes on something,
Mm,
whether you know you're starting to stretch a bit, you're
yeah.
reaching that point where you're not sure if you're moving in the right direction, the well is there,
Yeah.
right? And all of that experience and information is available. Again, you're not having to go through the same process over and over again. The process is growing along with you. And I think that that is invaluable. I'm speaking for myself in terms of what's motivated me to become involved. That reassurance is extraordinary. And you want to talk about efficiency, right? Particularly coming from a systems guy, that really is it, right? Being able to migrate all of that lived experience that you have from expert to expert, and just to know, again, for me, from my perspective, knowing I've got all of this expertise and experience to lean into with even even the slowest softball pitches,
Mhm.
right? And that's something else too that's very appealing to me. Working in an environment in this particular way, I know it's a very, very time-worn cliche, but there are no stupid questions. It's a wonderful experience to be able to ask the thing it seems like everybody else knows, but you're not quite sure of. And to be met with a reciprocal enthusiasm, right? That makes such a big difference.
Yeah, it does. It's so nice to have because even I think so speaking of the majority of the people are on here are within financial services and there's a couple outside. But it happens again in any industry. So if you have a contract to sell a product and it's an advice-based business, there are always going to be wholesalers or product people or whatever that are going to come meet you. They're going to make an appointment with you and they're going to sit there and talk about, okay, Shaun, tell me about your business. Derek, tell me about your business. And so coming from senior management and going out and talking to advisors saying, what drives you crazy? And it's always the first thing that always comes out of our mouth is, I'm so tired. Every 2 years, you got another wholesaler. And you say you always go give me all these calls and you make me input all this data and this information. And nobody goes and looks at it. So I'm repeating the same questions over and over, giving the same answers. And I'm just going to start making them up now. So it's that part of how do you be efficient and respectful to time? We're all really busy. So when you're an independent business owner, you're, oh my gosh, chief cook, bottle washer, everything. There's so many things on your shoulders. So putting this all together and taking a little bit of psychology in it and looking at the masculine versus feminine, women work on community and collaboration, men work within efficiencies. And so when you build a group together and you're able to come to the well and there's this mindset, the sharing of mindset and experience when saying, okay, I get that that's the target. However, I would rather stop and slow down and make sure we have it right and communicate with everyone before we just deliver something. And it takes a lot of bravery to have those conversations with people. It really does. You want something done quickly, give it to the busiest person. You want something done well, give it to the quietest person. It's really interesting to watch that. It truly is. Okay, last question. You ready? Mr. Doc Copy. What key habits or mindset have helped you push beyond traditional approaches, and how can other independent business owners adopt these practices to challenging the norm?
Um, I have given this a lot of thought, um, and not just leading up to our conversation today, but throughout my life and career. My answer is incredibly idiosyncratic. It comes out of my own life experience. I was very fortunate to grow up in a very loving and supportive family. My father was very successful in business, and throughout my childhood, my adolescence, my adulthood, he took pains to very quietly, very subtly, without ever making a show of these being teachable moments, inviting me to consider the costs of pursuing the goals that other people pursue, many other people pursue, to chase after other people's dreams, to give time and energy away to pursuing these objects of desire that weren't even mine. He himself spent his life doing that very thing, and replicated the success so many of us are accustomed to pointing to. The whole time, he was really using his life as a teachable moment for me, asking me to question the values, asking me to consider the consequences of throwing my lot in with everyone else who is chasing after whatever dream it is that we're sold, right? At that formative moment, that decisive moment in our lives where we're like, okay, this is who I am, that's what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
My dad provided a cautionary tale and quietly pointed me to that type of self-reflection we've been talking about today. I'm very fortunate in that. Without even realizing it, I grew up being skeptical about other people's success and doing exactly what we were talking about earlier, investigating the truthfulness
Yeah.
of the veneer that so many of us erect and hide behind because we lack the courage or we lack the support to go out into the world and do the thing, not that we're just passionate about, but that we know will help other people. And so, despite all of the setbacks, despite all of the sacrifice that's involved, it's not easy to live that life, right? It's not easy to be yourself in a world that really questions that decision. It's not easy to be the kid who shows up to the middle school dance wearing felt tennis ball sneakers, right?
I'm
But
still getting you some for your birthday.
oh, if you can find them,
I
I've
will
been
try.
looking for 30 years.
I'll try.
Um, if you can be that person, you are going to wind up working with the most extraordinary people and having the most extraordinary impact, no matter how large or small, because everything you do will be aligned to your purpose.
Mm-hmm.
We use words like authenticity all the time. This is what we really mean.
Yeah.
Being yourself, leading by listening, being empathetic, and encouraging and inviting other people to do the same changes everything. And I feel very, very grateful for that gift and the knowledge and the experience that was given to me over the course of my life.
It's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you very much. Shaun.
Absolutely. So this was my favorite question out of all of them. So, like Derek shared a story. I think back to my childhood before I was even aware of what framed the type of service and you know thought process I have towards business and advice. And it comes back to my grandfather, and I was very young. He had a TV repair shop in our house. I grew up with my grandparents and my mom. And I would go on deliveries with him when he would take the TVs he repaired back. That's before TVs were disposable, um, where you'd actually return these back. And it wasn't transactional. It was we would deliver them and we would spend an hour or 2 hours in there and he would have conversations with they were like everybody was a friend and you got to know them. And to me, I've always said in the many years of business that I wanted to keep that part of business there, whether somebody is asking for advice or wanting a transaction. I think people, and I not think, but I know people don't remember the transactional conversations. They remember the relational conversations. Just like when you go to a conference, you don't remember the stuff in the sessions. You remember the stuff between the sessions, right? That's what this industry, if you can stand out in this industry, it's you're taking and making the time for those relational things that are happening. So for me, that the habits that come into play is not trying to do everything, because I've done this where I wouldn't give up control. I was like, I can do it. I can do it. I'll do it. And then you end up just spreading yourself so thin. So when we look at this, look at your business and say, what are all the things that I'm currently doing? And there's only three outcomes of that:
Mhm.
delegate, automate, or eliminate.
Yep.
That's it, right? There's nothing else in there. Those are the three things that are there. So in doing that, it's like, how can I automate this to either do it for me or make it way more efficient for me to do that? Meetings, right? This is something I've implemented in the last 6 months, is these AI note takers. They revolutionize the way that I attend meetings because I don't have to take notes. Right? It's happening while I'm there, but it allows me to be present. It allows me to focus more on the relational stuff and not have to be distracted to take the transactional stuff down on paper. So that has been the biggest thing for me, was changing that mindset that I need to just show up and be present in all that I'm doing. And there's another thing of systems, and there's reasons why these are in place, is, you know, what do you want that experience to be, not only for the client, but what do you need it to be for you? Kim, you touched on this about, giving advice is exhausting, right? I've booked my client updates on Tuesdays. By the end of that day, I'm fried,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Because I have to be present, that's there. And there's reasons why you can set appointment schedules to only book 2 or 3 appointments in that day for that type of meeting, because it's taking your mental health and your capacity in check for that.
Yeah.
So that's the other part. And also consistent learning, right? And looking at what is coming down the pipeline. If you haven't even touched on AI yet in your business, maybe you don't want to do it right now, but you need to be aware of what's coming down the pipeline. Where's the industry going to go?
That's amazing. Thank you, gentlemen. It is very funny. A couple of the people that have been on here have heard me talk about this before, of even just your business and what's helped you push beyond the traditional norm. But there's also that part of, okay, how do you marry foundational, traditional things where we were happier human beings? So there's something to be said about the traditional home, or sitting together and having dinner, or the exercise of cleaning your house, or whatever it may be. And it's why I built my office this way. Like, my office is this very old throwback, back to the 1970s, mid-century modern. Things have been refurbished, put back together, and it's such a good feeling. So there's this part of, we've lost that art and that experience of sitting down and just having a conversation and being human beings, because we're always pushing and outperforming. So how do we use automation the right way to give us that ability to connect, to have that experience? How do we better phrase our words when we're trying to express ourselves, to sound, not to sound like we're pushing or we're shooting people? We are just giving genuine advice because we care, and balancing that emotion with purpose and passion. How do we come across that way? How do we have all of these parts come together? And it's, what do we keep in our business? What do we donate? And what do we throw away? It's the exact same thing as when you spring clean and when you clean in the fall. This is your house. Your business is your home, and it's part of your life. So it is that part of, how do you sort through, and what do you learn from before? So mine was a lot of, with my mom. My mom was an incredible, incredible icon for me within business and how to put business together. And she was also that part of the faces of legacy that we all look at, of businesses before us, or our family, or that iconic person in there. Is, they've done a lot of things that we want to emulate, but there's also a lot of pieces that we need to change and break the cycle too. So when looking at my face of legacy with my mom, amazing woman, was billing herself out at over $1,200 an hour. However, she never asked for help. She never opened up the door. She always kept everything so close and so tight to herself. And that was a big part of my learning with my innovation, was I need to learn to take the time to trust and build those relationships first, instead of just saying, here's my idea. Because the hardest thing ever in the whole entire world, anyone tries to do that with design, you've got to bring all these other resources in, and you have to show them this whole picture, but it's hard and you're scared to show this whole picture. we have to work in a collective mindset or a collaboration mindset. And the probability of 80% of those people taking or stealing your idea or not going through it with you it's pretty high. It's going to happen. But the ones that are there and stick with you, man, you're going to create amazing things. And that again is up to you. You own that. You own that piece. And that's behaviors. And we truly set up the habits on how people treat us exactly by the way that we treat them. So you guys, I love this so much. This is kind of the end of our questions for our first official Tap In Cohort conversation. And so I just want to give a little bit of housekeeping and a few of you are joined in or will be listening to the replay that have got the 3 for free, the taste of Tap In. So really the cycle, the way it goes is conversation with the experts and then some training that I'll be putting on and then conversation with the experts reflecting back to the previous week's training. So this is not a set it and forget it or you're going to go do a whole bunch of homework. We truly work through this whole entire process of what an annual business plan looks like, how you reflect, how you stay on track, how you make the right adjustments. So that's the big part. The one part about next week, it's an exercise on reflection. And I want you to think about this as we get forward and ready for next Monday. I want you to write down a pros and cons list of what it means to be an independent business owner. So what are the pros and what are the cons? Then once you write down the pros and cons, I want you to take it one step further because this is the way Kimberly Skermer's brain goes. I want you to now weight the pros and weight the cons. What weighting does that have towards that desired outcome you want? So it's not just one list is longer than the other because it could be, but what does that point underneath that column? How heavy is that weighting towards your defined and desired success? So that's that piece. And I'm going to wrap it up with that is there any final questions or does anybody want to chime in with anything or Derek or Shaun, anything to say?
Well, I certainly want to thank everyone who's joined us today. I really appreciate everyone who's going to turn in and listen. Thanks for the chat. Some excellent points. So much appreciated.
Yeah,
Shaun?
it's been a fantastic first session.
Yeah.
Thank you for everyone who showed up.
Thank you. Thank you. Everyone, please send questions our way. This is about you. This is for you. I've ran my corporate life that way. I never bring anything forward that hasn't been asked from the audience. I don't go just bowling forward and designing it myself. I actually designed a lot of my programs from feedback, and that is the best way. Okay. Well, thank you very much. I miss you guys already. Okay. Bye-bye.